People may try to bring stories and say, oh, I did this all by myself. I pulled up my bootstraps is what they used to say,
Yeah.
back in the day, long before me, and I was able to go and do it. It's like, no, yes, acknowledging you for all the work that you've put in and, what you've been committed to. Nobody goes as far as they're capable of going without others.
Welcome to an inspirational people interview on the Share Life podcast. I'm Jason Scott Montoya, and today I'm speaking with executive coach at Novus Global, keynote speaker and MC Trey McKnight. Trey, say hello.
What's up? How you doing?
Good. I recently met Trey at a Voices to Connect Speaker Showcase conference, and I was impressed by his emceeing ability, so I talked with him while the event was going on. Trey is a visionary leader and coach. He has an intense passion for live people and inspiring transformational change in people to move towards what matters. So, Trey, tell us about you and your story, and where do you come from?
Wow. Well, yeah, first off, just want to say thank you for having me. I always love meeting new people and man, even, standing on the stage and seeing the multitude of people that were in the room and then being able to connect with you afterwards. Just had this demeanor that was very inviting. And so, yeah, it was an honor to get to meet you there. And then to know that we'd be able to step into this space and be able to chat a little bit was even more thrilling for me. So really appreciate just you having me on and being able to dive in, and hopefully our conversation today helps somebody right where they are. So yeah, my story, that's always such a loaded thing because it's like, where do I start? But I'll say, yeah, I'll start with a very important piece of my story is the people that I care most about. And so I am a father and a husband. A husband of 16 years now to my beautiful wife, Jamie, and then father to two boys, 12 and 7, and then baby girl is 3 years old. She runs the house. She knows it. She acts like it, and but brings all kinds of joy. All three
So
of them.
I stumbled upon a antidote to that problem.
Yeah.
Getting a dog after you have your youngest child. Then they become the youngest.
Oh yeah, that's smart. It's funny too. That's a very timely thing you're saying too. Because literally, my son was just last night saying we've told them for quite some time. So we outgrew our house that we currently live.
Okay.
We lived in this house for 7 years. At one point, it served our needs, and then when she was born, we outgrew it. Kicked me out to where I have no space to work in the house. Because everybody works remote now. And there's plenty of other things that just we don't have room for in the house. So we're looking to move this year. We've told our kids several times. We're not getting a dog until after we move. And for whatever
Okay.
reason, my 12-year-old last night was like, "Hey, can we just go ahead and get a dog?"
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I didn't even entertain the question. I said, "We're not going there. You know what we've said, but that is on the horizon at some point."
Yeah.
But yeah, born in Mississippi, Hattiesburg, Mississippi, down near University of Southern Mississippi.
Okay.
Only lived there till I was 5. Dad was not a
Do you
military.
do you remember it? Do you
Uh,
remember anything there?
yeah, a fair amount. You know how you have
Okay.
snapshots of things?
Yeah.
So yeah, I have little snapshots of different events that I think were probably tied to emotional things when I was, younger.
Yeah.
And there was there was a time I remember that I was standing on our back steps while my dad was cutting the grass, and you know how lawnmowers will kick,
Yeah.
debris
Oh,
up and
okay.
stuff like that. And so probably little 3 or 4-year-old me was standing there, and as he was going by, kicked like a pine cone or something like that that hit me in the head.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Mm.
I remember that and several other, little things. But outside of that, I don't remember a ton about it.
Yeah.
'Cause I was too young. But yeah, we moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, and then to Sugar Land, Texas, for a couple years, and then finally landed on in the eastern suburbs of Atlanta. I live in the north suburbs of Atlanta now, and yeah, have lived here for the last 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
I grew up here, north side of Atlanta, and it's been amazing as I've gone through. I've done a lot of different things. I would say that I'm probably I've categorized myself before as like a jack of all trades, master of none, which I
Well,
held for a very.
yeah. Well,
I,
the phrase is there's also the variation, the master of one.
yep, yes, that's a great one. I haven't heard that one a lot, but I
Yeah.
do. I would love to unpack that some because I think I know
Yeah.
where you're going with it. Um, but yeah, I used to hold that as a negative
Hmm.
because I think that even it seemed like a lot of people around me held that as a negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what's the thing? For a long time, it was like, what's the thing that you're going to do? And it was only within the last probably 5-10 years that I really developed this. I think somebody wrote a book called like The Journalist, something about the journalist. And
Okay. Yeah.
when you've had a lot of different experiences, you can relate to people in a greater, so bring value in that way. So I've adopted that and said, hey, how can I make that my superpower?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've spent time as a firefighter. I did that for 10 years. I've been in
Wow.
ministry
What
full
years?
time. So that was from 2003 to 2013.
Okay. And how old were you in that span?
Yeah. So born in 1980. So I started in April of 2003. So I was 22,
Okay.
and went all the way until I was, I guess, 32 at the
Okay.
time when I
And
left there.
what inspired you or drove you into firefighting?
Uh, it was so I graduated from the University of Georgia in 2002 and was looking for what was next. I had, this kind of idea that like I'd be an actor or something like that. I was always
Yeah.
drawn to the stage and drawn to, performance and,
Hmm.
those kinds of things. And so I kind of started to bark up that tree a little bit. But my neighbor across the street from the house that we lived in at the time had for years been a battalion chief, and he
Mm,
was like a second father to me. So
yeah.
we just spent so much time with them, and he would, come over. He'd tell the story. Ronnie, if you're out there listening, he'd tell the story about, man, I remember when, I used to bounce you on my knee when you were a little kid. And so, so anyway, he told me, he said, hey, the fire department's hiring. You should look at it. And I enjoyed physical fitness, and I enjoyed a good challenge, and all those things. And so I said, you know what, let's give it a whirl and see what happens. And if nothing else, it'll be a temporary thing until I find what I really want to do. And I got into it, and for my first few years, thought that it was what I would do for the rest of my life.
Mm,
For a number of different reasons, it didn't end up being, but I'm grateful for that time. I think that developed, honestly, my initial foundation for the love of leadership and like mental toughness and grit and
yeah.
hard work and all those things. Just kind of gave me that initial, um, exposure to what it
Yeah.
meant to really bring yourself fully to something.
Yeah.
So
Well, now being in a career and changing so dramatically,
yeah.
like that's a big shift. Did it feel that way?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
I haven't told a lot of people this story. I guess I'm about to tell a lot now. The day that I was working my last shift at the fire department, I remember the night before, I laid down in bed with my wife, and I just started crying. Like
Yeah.
I'm laying there, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to go to sleep and wake up in the morning and do my last 24-hour shift with this thing that I've known for my entire
Mhm.
adult life.
Yeah.
Um, and there was I think looking back, there was fear that was involved.
Yeah.
We had just had my first son,
Mm.
and so he was at the time. This was April, so he was 5 months old, 4 months old at the time. So there was not only the fear, but there was just like the uncertainty, the unknown of I'm
Hmm.
stepping into something I've never done before. I went from firefighting to sales, and
Did you have that
there's
job lined up when you quit?
I
Yeah.
did. Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah.
plan the plan was by the end of that year, by the end of 2013, we knew, hey, I'm going to be in some different type of job.
Mm,
Firefighting was great, but schedule wise, it just became difficult. And as we started to, know we wanted a family, I thought, it works for some people, but it's not what we wanted. For me to be awake
yeah.
for 24 hours at a time and all that. So,
Yeah.
so yeah. So I said, hey, let's go figure out what this looks like, and I'll take a year to find out exactly what I'm going to do next. And
And that
from the
was
time that
2013?
that was 2013. So
Yeah.
February of 2013, I started putting out some feelers and looking through different opportunities. And by the end of February, I had interviews lined up and accepted the position in the middle of March.
Yeah, okay, wow.
So it happened quick.
And were you looking for a sales job or was that just what you found?
I I had a lot of people tell me they were like, "Hey, I think you'd probably do well in sales."
Mm,
I don't know if it was just if because I talked a lot or if I don't know what it was that people felt like that was something. So I was looking there. I wasn't necessarily like seeking,
hmm.
hey, I want to be in sales. I just knew, hey, as I try to step out and figure out what's next, I'm willing to try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So that was kind of what spurred me into that, and it seemed like a great opportunity, and so I went after it.
Yeah.
So
And so the emotion that you felt, was it relief, and grief, or one or the other, or something else all entirely? You mentioned the fear. Like, tell me more about that.
Yeah. Um, there was some relief. I think, 10 years at the fire department, probably the last 3 to 4, I knew that I was looking to do something different. Just didn't know exactly what that would be. I think a lot of your listeners, have either ministry background or, Christian background. And so as we were praying through it, I would tell people, I feel like we've had our finger on the go button, but we're just waiting for that guidance, as we were praying through it of like, hey, where's God going to lead us? And so we're just waiting to push it. There was a relief in that sense that was like, okay, we're moving on to the new thing now. But I think even further, it was fear. It was uncertainty. It was, I'm probably lean on the side of more spontaneity than I do on being fully planned out. Whereas my wife is a planner, and she was fully willing to go on the ride and say, okay, what's next? Let's go. Let's figure it out. But I think I was probably also carrying some of like the fear that she was feeling, and just as a husband and brand new father, and it was just a lot of new stuff all at once. And so I think that was probably the majority of it. And the can I succeed at something else? I didn't know.
And reinvent yourself as well. In a major way. Yep. In your identity.
Now firefighter Trey, which is what everybody called me, is moving into this sales position where, I had some success with the fire department. So I think I was viewed there as somebody who would, if I had stayed, would have had a lot of success and leadership and those things. And now I'm going into something where I'm just another fish in the pond, and a much, much bigger pond, So I think there were probably some identity things that I was working through with all of that too.
So you said you took a year. Is there anything interesting worth talking about what happened during that year?
Well, so the plan was to take a year while still working at the fire department to figure out what was next.
Oh, okay.
But it happened much faster than we thought it would.
So it got cut short. So it went from a year to a few months?
Yeah, it was literally 2 months from when I started looking.
So, okay. And then that job, how long did that last? Tell us what happened there.
So that job was the only job that I have ever been a part of where I got fired. I was there for a total, I was there from April of 2013 until August of 2014. So just short of a year and a half. And looking back, it was a great experience in what it taught me. I'm a big believer and we may talk more about this later, but a big believer in that growth and comfort cannot coexist. And so stepping into that job was a big growth edge for me in every way. And I think that I experienced that in a way that some of it I handled really well and some of it I didn't. If for nothing else, just from the naivety of like not really knowing what I was getting into and how to manage it or navigate it. But then too, I realized pretty quickly I was in a spot that I didn't want to be in for a long time. But you still have this responsibility of I've still got to provide for my family and I've got to show up. And but what it did though is it refined me in a lot of ways to gain courage to do things that were scary. So I took the mentality that I had from the fire department, which was mental toughness. I can dig through anything that's hard, and into, man, this is really hard, and I don't want to do this anymore. But I've just got to stick it out for months. So I entered the year 2014 with a lot of opportunity in my pipeline. And was the leading salesperson on our team for the month or two that started the year, and then within a couple months after that was put on a PIP on an improvement plan to say, hey, you've got 60 days to sell something, and if you don't, then you're out. And then 2 weeks later, they told me you've actually got 2 more weeks, and so they shortened that timeline. And then we were out. So
okay, so what month is that in 2004? 13? Did you say?
That was in 13. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, that was 14. So that was 14. that process of being put on the performance plan and all that was that summer. So yeah, it was right at the beginning of August was when I left there.
Okay, so this is about 5 months after you left the fire department.
A year and 5 months after. Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you were there for about a year and a half,
Yep.
and then what happens?
Yeah. So started with another company as a recruiter.
Okay.
Went into it because I had met a guy trying to sell him actually on what we were selling previously, and just a connection. And then he said, well, hey, I've actually got this opportunity over here. And so it just lined up really well, where as I was leaving the previous company, I called him up and said, hey, you still got this opportunity? And he said, yeah. So I went and did that. Again, quickly realized it wasn't specifically where I wanted to be for a long time. So noticing a pattern here.
Yeah. And what is it that you value that you're not seeing in these?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I knew that so that was right around the time that I started to understand better. I think this was always a part of me, but I started to understand better what purpose I wanted to pursue in my life.
Yeah.
And that eventually I was able to put words to, which was to inspire people. You mentioned at the beginning, inspire people to move toward what matters.
Yeah.
I actually learned that in the 4 months that I was at this second company after the fire department.
So it helped give you clarity.
Yeah, thankfully there was that's the thing that I took away from that time was I had somebody who was there. I considered him kind of like a mentor in that space. And he said to me, he's like, hey man, have you ever developed like a life mission statement? And I said, nope, never done it. He's like, I would encourage you to do that. Because then that gives you a lens to be able to look through at anything that's coming up to say, hey, does this fit what it is that I'm moving toward? If it does, cool, let's consider it further. If it doesn't, it's off the table. So it kind of gives you like that clarity and the ability to move a little more quickly in decisions, which was a gift to me in the season where, again, I'd spent 10 years in the fire department, thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life, had never looked at anything else. And so now stepping into this first company and then the second company, it was I am taking swings at things that I don't know what's on the other side, but we'll see what happens. And then when we get in there, if it's not working out, okay, cool. It's time to make a new decision. So my poor wife, change after change after change. Again, she's a planner. So, but she was a trooper and just saying, hey, like I want you to be happy. Let's keep moving until we figure it out. So, I got a phone call from a good friend of mine I had known for a long time who was actually leading the youth department at a church that we were attending. And he said, hey, I would love your help over here. If you could come and help lead some of our volunteer groups. And I said, yeah, that sounds awesome. So I think the value, to answer your question, the value of what I was looking for was to help develop people, help inspire people, help like rally people around a cause or something that mattered to them, and to help them move forward in that. And I wasn't seeing that at either of the two companies in sales or recruiting that I was doing. Whereas, stepping into ministry full time in a lot of ways was feeding that. So.
Yeah. And so how long did you do that role?
The ministry role?
Yeah.
So I was with the church that I was working at with its multiple locations. I worked leading volunteers for about 2 years, and then they took me and said, "Hey, we want you to go and direct the department at another, the youth department at another one of our locations." I did that for another 2 years. After that.
Okay. So
4 years
firefighter, and then sales jobs, and now ministry leader. Like, okay, when do you become the actor? When's that happen here?
never happened. I never became the actor. I did some video work, and I can continue to do some video work, mainly from an MC standpoint. So I've done a lot of industrial, commercial type videos for internal training and things like that. So I guess that feeds the. I think I discovered that I never really wanted to be an actor. I think I wanted the allure of being on camera. Okay. And so that was fulfilled by way of doing a lot of these videos. And I started while I was working at the church, I was doing like our online broadcast as the host there.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that was enough to feed the appetite that I had for that. So
yeah. So what was some of your big takeaways from that ministry experience?
Oh, Jason, that's going to be a whole other podcast, man. Gosh, major takeaways. I am a fan of the church. I believe that the church is good. I believe that I'm a follower of Jesus, and so in every way, that is unchanging.
Yeah.
The church is filled with imperfect people, and I think that there is sometimes an expectation that people. There used to be. I'm gonna edit that. There used to be an expectation of people who worked in and around the church that there was this, like, for lack of a better term, maybe a pedestal that people in general, including myself, would put those who are working in the church on, which is okay. I think it's okay to require a higher standard of people who are working in the church, but also with the acknowledgement that those are human people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that they are imperfect. And I think that there used to be this expectation, and when I get, you pull back the veil and you get into working in the church, and you realize very quickly that these are all imperfect people, including myself. And so there are messes all over the place, right? And I'm not talking about a lot of the big stuff that we've seen over the last few years, right? I'm just talking about just when you deal with people. I say all the time, people are going to people. Anytime you get more than one person in a room, there will be some sort of mess at some point, because I have an occurrence in my life based off of my past experiences, my current circumstances, and the way that I see what is happening in front of me. You, Jason, may have had the same happening in front of you, but it's going to occur to you differently. And so that creates messes in life. And so I think that one of the biggest takeaways that I had from working in full-time ministry was an acceptance of, maybe for the first time in my life, and I was in my 30s at this time, that regardless of where you go, we're all imperfect, and we all have the ability and the capacity and the capability to grow, and to if we're willing to look at the things that are getting in our way, both for ourselves personally and for our spiritual lives and for how we relate to others. That can unpack and unlock a lot of things that can create much better life for all of us. But we have to be willing to step into that. Sometimes people are willing and sometimes they're not. And that can create messes that are small and don't have a lot of impact. And that can create much bigger messes, which have been on display in the church now for the last, for a long time. But, a lot of what we've seen over the last few years.
Yeah. So I think disillusionment is a kind of a doorway for every Christian. Disillusionment of the church, specifically. Like getting to this place that we realize, the church is actually part of the problem Jesus came to solve, in the sense that like the church didn't come to solve the problem, Jesus came to solve the problem.
Right.
And so if the church actually fixed the problem, then he wouldn't have had to come, right? So so I think we all go through that doorway. But if someone is at that place, what would you tell them if they're listening to this?
If I'm hearing the question correctly, somebody's at the place where they have a perception of the church that is, whatever, this disillusionment of the purpose of the church, and the church versus Jesus. And all, I think it's simple. I mean, for me, and I think it's as part of what was my learning and my growing, is to there could be for you, if you're listening to this and that's where you are, there could be for you power in recognizing and accepting that what God intends for the church to be is not always in alignment with what we experience from the people in the church. And I think if we can be really clear and really sober on that, to recognize that bad experiences with people in the church does not equal bad church, I think that can unlock a lot for us.
Yeah. And in fact, we could make the argument that that it's a symptom that something has gone wrong in that church or in that person, and that's an opportunity to work that out towards the ideal. Yeah. Which requires the thing you said earlier, courage, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh yeah. There is a necessity for courageous people to speak up, and to speak out, and to I literally have just been having this conversation around a situation that I'm fairly close to. Is that we I think as humans have a tendency to, the more we are uncertain about something, the more we will look to others around us to confirm and affirm behavior and
Yeah.
how we should move forward. And I think in a lot of ways that is it can protect us in a lot of ways, because when we are searching for and looking at the things that are happening around us, we're looking for cues that are going to inform us on how we should behave. And it could be to the extreme of, hey, this might save your life if you see everyone else around you running from something. Even if you don't know what they're running from, it might make sense to also run, at least until you can figure out what that is.
Yeah.
There's tons of like TikTok videos that show that whole phenomenon. But that's also the thing that can get us in trouble too, because if we are willing to and are committed to only seeing what everybody else is doing, who's a part of the same system, without ever taking a step back and saying, hey, are we doing this right? Is this the most appropriate thing? Are there dangers here that we need to be aware of that maybe nobody's paying attention to because we're also hyper focused on, well, this is just the way that we do it? That can be very dangerous. And
you remind me of there's a concept Brene Brown talks about called braving the wilderness.
Yeah.
And the idea is like going into, like when you're a part of a group, going into the wilderness is essentially going into the wilderness and speaking the truth back to the group that you've departed because they've lost their way. But from a social standpoint, you are actually going into the wilderness because you're leaving the safety of your community to speak the truth when they've lost their way. Yeah. And it's a very lonely place, but it's also the right thing to do. So it's a really interesting idea that she has that I resonated with. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
So there's a social cost, and it's hard to be willing, if you're a people pleaser or just don't have enough maturity, like we can get sucked into the social tension, not wanting to be the bad guy or wanting to conform or whatever it might be, right? Yep. And so those we can be captured or trapped in that dynamic.
Yeah, captured and trapped is a really good word for that to describe, I think, what at least how we like the story we tell ourselves about what's happening.
Yeah.
Because I do think that's a story. I think that we very often will either consciously or subconsciously say to ourselves, "Man, yeah, we're trapped in this," or in retrospect, look back and be like, "Well, I was trapped in this thing." And I think that's accurate to describe what we probably have felt or believed. Yeah. But I think there's agency in recognizing that, or I use the word, there's power in recognizing that we have agency that would not have us trapped if we're willing to do the courageous thing.
Yeah. So ministry, then what? What comes after?
So full-time ministry, and from there stepped into a paraministry organization, which I still work very closely with. I sit in leadership. We do summer camps Christian summer camps down in Panama City Beach. And so that's a nonprofit that I lead alongside being a coach. And so I stepped into that in 2018, full-time for a few years. Stepped out of that into something else around COVID time, which was super helpful. And then stepped back into that role at the same time that I started into coaching with Novus Global almost 3 years ago now. So
you've been with Novus 3 years, and then where is the speaking and the emceeing play a part in all this?
That's been scattered, and that is the thing that is it's like the common thread that's always there. So I've thankfully had an opportunity to work with a lot of really great organizations over the years in emceeing and hosting big corporate events. From as small as 30 or 40, people to as large as hundreds of thousands watching online, with thousands in the room, which has been a lot of fun. The speaking is something that I've done a lot of, mainly from a ministry standpoint, and have, as of recent, the last couple of years, stepped into more of speaking in the coaching space and in the corporate space. And so really taking a lot of our tools and presenting them in a way that is that compels people to think differently and to ask the right questions in their lives. And that's been a lot of fun, and I'm really excited about building more of that in the future.
Yeah. So if you were to rewind back to that 22-year-old you that was about to become a firefighter, what would you tell him now?
Ooh, that's a great question. Oh man, so this is what's coming up for me right now. I think I would say learn really quickly to notice those occurrences and the things that are showing up, like
Hmm.
whether it's emotional, spiritual, mental, physical, whatever.
Hmm.
If 22-year-old me was more proactive in creating a vision and designing it
Hmm.
intentionally. And I say this to not to diminish any experience that I've had over the last 20 years,
Yeah.
because I do think that I've taken something really powerful from each of my experiences over the years.
Hmm.
But I also look back and think, man, if I had, and everybody says this, if I had known at 22 what I know now, and specifically for me, that is to be much more intentional and proactive on designing a vision that I wanted to go after, creating a vision that was bigger than myself, bigger than anything, something that seemed impossible to me. I wonder if I would have gotten where I am faster.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
What would have what would have the younger you responded to what advice you gave him?
he he probably would have said, "Nah, man, we're just having fun right now, so we'll just do whatever comes along." Yeah,
Yeah,
that's most likely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what is like when you think about the idea of just living better,
Mhm.
like what comes to mind and what does that look like for you now?
Ooh. Um, I would say that so first and foremost, in coaching world, we talk a lot about like vagueness versus specificity.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I hear a word like, better or more or improve or anything like that, if I were to say to you, Jason, man, I would love to make more money in 2025. You could hand me $1 and congratulations, you did it. You made more money. You have one more dollar than you had before.
Yeah.
That's extreme example, obviously. But the point is that when we are vague to say something about like, hey, I want to live better, it leaves the door open for what that is until we clearly define it. So if we're talking about living better, what that means for me, I think first and foremost it means getting really clear on what better means for
Mm-hmm.
you. I've said this a couple times now, but like my life mission, what I feel like I'm here for is to inspire people to move toward what matters.
Yeah.
And I can unpack the different pieces of that. There's a move element, right, which is the
Mm-hmm.
intentionality piece. There's the inspire element, and I could go like full Christian on you. Like you talk about inspire, it means to like breathe in. You talk about breath of life, so we're talking like living, and
Mm-hmm.
I could like do a whole speech on that. But the key word there is matters, and I think that what matters to different people is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so what's living for you may be completely different than what's living for me based off of what my vision is for, hey, this is what really matters to me. So when I talk about living a better life, I think you have to first start with how can we get specific about what better means,
Mm-hmm.
which to me I would equate to being vision. It's like this picture of the future that I just get super passionate about.
Yeah.
And then when I'm passionate about that picture, then I know that's something worth investing time and energy and
Mm-hmm.
money and effort and whatever resources I have available to me or that I can create.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go through the pain of whoever it is I need to become in order for that thing to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so unapologetically, I speak this all the time. Like Jesus said, "I have come that they may have life and have it to the full." I don't believe that anybody is on this earth who is just supposed to live a mediocre life.
Yeah.
And I believe that that the way that we push past what occurs to us or seems like mediocre or or may feel mediocre is to explore, hey, what have I been given, or what do I have access to, or what can I create that gives me the ability to achieve something that I'm capable of, that maybe I've either told myself for a long time that I'm not capable of, or I've
Yeah.
believed the story that others have told me that I'm not capable of, or that I've just never taken the time to actually unpack and realize like, hey, this is something I can actually go after. So to me, that's living, is developing a vision, having the right mindset around it, and then like coming up with a solid strategy to go and pursue it.
Yeah. So if someone is lacking that right now, what advice would you give them what would be a good first step for them?
Don't try to do it by yourself. And I know that's going to seem, you mentioned I'm an executive coach, like that, that's going to seem like a shameless plug. But I don't ever want, I'll say this as a disclaimer. I don't ever want somebody to fall in love with me as a coach. I want people to recognize that, that nobody gets where they're going by themselves. People may try to bring stories and say, "Oh, I did this all by myself. I pulled up my bootstraps," is what they used to say, back in the day, long before me, and I was able to go and do it. It's like, no, it's like, yes, like acknowledging you for all the work that you've put in and, what you've been committed to, but like nobody goes as far as they're capable of going without others. So that would be my first piece, would be to don't try to do it by yourself. I think that everybody in their life needs a coach of some sort. Whether they hire someone to come alongside them, whether they have a trusted person in their life who you would, who you can get really gritty with, and who can hold space for you, to say, hey, what are you aiming for? Let's make sure you stay clear on that, and to make sure that you're connected to whether or not you're connected to that thing. And then what are the ways you're getting in your way? Because so often we don't want to pay attention to what's getting in our way, or we don't even see what's getting in our way, because it's just business as usual. And then we spend our lives, doing and doing and doing and doing, trying to get to the thing that we want most in life, trying to get to this life to the full, and we either take a very long time to get there, or we never get there because we never took the time to have somebody say, hey, this is my experience of you. Are you willing to actually look at this and mine out where this might be true in your life, and then figure out what you want to do with it? Don't try to do it by yourself.
Yeah. So let's talk about work then, and on the working smarter. What does working smarter mean?
Ooh, man, I think to work smarter, I would say is probably somewhere around the lines of like, recognizing, I don't know, in a lot of ways it's a similar answer. It's recognizing where you're not clear. It's a couple things. I'm going to say it's recognizing where you're not clear in life, and then getting really, really clear on not only what your vision is, but like what your reality is. So if you know what you're aiming for, but you don't have any clarity on like where you're starting, you may never get there. So I think you have to be really smart to understand this is where I am as it compares to where I'm going, and understand what the gap is, so that you know who you need to become and what you need to do to get there. And then the other piece too, and I mean, to even get really practical with it, because I recognize that some of this can seem theoretical. But as I said, like, we in my work, like we work very strongly on like vision, mindset, strategy. So I think part of the strategy is, and I heard somebody say this, I'm going to steal it. It's not mine. But it's to create it, wherever there's tension, to create a process to address the tension. I'm pretty sure it was Rob Dyrdek that said that in his podcast. Some of you may remember Rob Dyrdek, Robin Big from back in the day, old skater. Really, really smart guy, smart business guy, and just smart with productivity in life. And he said that on a podcast once. It's like anywhere where there's an identified tension, create a process to address the tension. And it can be big or it can be small.
What would be an example of tension that he's kind of referencing?
Yeah. So for instance, I'll use processes that happen at work. We, with the nonprofit that I work with, we have we do camps every summer, and this is gonna seem like 101, but you'd be surprised at how many companies don't do this. We used to have a lot of tension around the time of year that was approaching camp time, where there were a lot of questions being asked and a lot of tension around, hey, are we getting all the things done? And part of the reason that we were overlapping and there was a lot of inefficiency that was happening is because we didn't have a clear, singular place where we could keep all of the tasks and projects that were happening on an annual basis on where we were on certain projects. And so then balls would get dropped and things like that. And it would always be a great experience, but it's like people were running around stressed all the time. So I'm like, okay, how do we address the stress of what's happening? So we literally just implemented Asana is what we use. And we have boards on boards on boards with tasks and projects and all kinds of things. And so that would be like kind of the obvious answer of that. Yeah. But like where this would even come, I'll use a personal example too. One of the things that like my wife will share with me sometimes, and this is calling out my own lack of integrity on things sometimes, which integrity I would define. I need to define this because it's not a morality thing. It is, but there's also another piece, which is like doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. So if we think about integrity from that lens, did I do the thing that I said I was going to do by when I said I was going to do it or not? And so the process that I implemented, because my wife was telling me, hey, sometimes I don't know when you're coming home from work. Mm-hmm. You know, like some days you're home at 5:30, some days you're home at 7. That makes it really difficult for me to like plan for what's happening at home, like the dynamic when you come in and the kids get nuts because you've just stepped in the door, like I need to prepare and all that, right? She's a planner. So a process that we implemented, that I implemented with her was I told her, hey, I will be home by 6 o'clock every day. And if I'm not going to be home by 6 o'clock in that day, then I will send you a text or call you or something and let you know as soon as I know that I will not be home at that time. Right. So now the tension, like what she's saying when it's like, hey, I don't never know when you're going to be home. Okay. Like that, people could think of that as one way. But what I'm hearing under the surface is, hey, it would be really helpful if I had an idea so that I could plan. Right. It's not so much about the time. It's about hey, are you thinking about your plan for like how your plan affects and impacts us at home, right? Yeah. And so that was a process to implement that addressed the tension that she was feeling with all that.
Yeah, and I think part of that is the tension she felt, you didn't feel, but you're now sharing the tension. I think is part of it too, where you're both feeling a part of it now, and then you're both playing a role to sort of navigate that tension. And I think the reason I say that is because I think a lot of times we are tension hot potatoing. So instead of sharing the tension, I throw it to you, Trey, and then I'm out of here, and then you're throwing it to me or somebody else, and we're hot potatoing. I don't know. What do you think?
That's I'm a visual learner, so I love that as a visual because I mean, if you even take it a little further, it's like when we throw it to somebody else and then they're left to hold it by themselves, right? Their hand's going to get burned. So, So I think it's definitely a beautiful thing to share in that. And I think that, I mean, we could keep going with this analogy. Like the more you toss it, right, it's being exposed to air, like science, it cools off. And then before you know it, there's no tension anymore because everybody's sharing the load. So I love that.
I had an employee years ago when I had my marketing company, and she was going to go to South Africa for a month. And so but she was like the operational person. And so we, and in anticipation, it created a tension of anticipation. But we kind of planned. We said, okay, the flood's coming. Let's put up the sandbags. Let's build this out. And so we planned around it. And so then when she left, like it was a nothing burger. Like there was no issue because we had just worked through that. And so, but if she had just left for a month and then we're just trying to figure things out, then there would have been a lot of tension, you know?
Sure. Yep. Yeah. That's good.
So you've talked about coaching. Is there a difference between coaching and mentoring? How do you think about mentoring?
Yeah. I love that question. We always are very distinctive and try to be very clear about the difference between, as you can imagine, in this industry, and I air quote that just to say, like, you know, when you think about the situation that is a person sitting across from another person and having a conversation that is meant to help one of the other people get better. You have therapy, you have consulting, you have coaching, you have mentoring. And in our world, and to me, these are all very different, right? So therapy takes a look at the past and says, hey, what are the undealt with events and things in your life, that you just haven't worked through. You've shoved it down, you've pushed it away, whatever, and that's having an impact on you now. And so I highly regard therapy. I think it is necessary. It is great. People should do that. Consulting would be, generally you hear consulting in the business world, and consulting is more of a, hey, here's our problem as a team or as a company or as a culture, and we need a solution. And so the consultant and or consultants are able to come in and say, here's a solution to what you're doing, right? We're giving you the answer. Now go do it. Implement this thing, use our 5-step process, use this, whatever, lots of different tools you can throw at them. It's like, okay, use this and it'll fix it. And then everybody's good, right? Also very valuable in business world. Coaching, I would say, and I'll go to mentoring too. Mentoring, I think, is more of, I am a person who is ahead of you in life to some degree, whether it's by years or by experience or anything along those lines. And then I'm going to take my years and my experience that are ahead of where you are, and I'm going to share my experience with you. I'm going to, coach you along on, hey, here are some things maybe to stay away from. Here are some pitfalls. Well, in my experience, this is what I experienced, and so maybe this is helpful for you. So it's a lot of experiential. I care for you, and therefore I'm going to share my experience with you so that you can hopefully avoid the things that weren't good in my experience and hopefully be accelerated into whatever it is you're going after because I'm a little bit ahead of you. Also very valuable, right?
Yeah.
Coaching is future-based. And when we think about coaching, it is helping people get really, really clear on what's the vision, what's the thing that you are going to get super fired up and passionate about that you're moving toward, and to expand that vision. Because again, we have a tendency as humans to diminish the vision that we're going after because we want to reduce the potential discomfort of realizing how big the vision is compared to what the reality is of where we are. And the bigger that gap is can be very uncomfortable in how we choose to relate to it.
Yeah.
And so it's helping you get really clear on the vision, but then also helping you expand it so that it is big enough and powerful enough for you to then go and work on what's your mindset in the gap.
Yeah.
And when we're working on the mindset of the gap, that's going to be the thing that's going to help us either walk through the gap in the discomfort and in the transformation that's happening, which can be very uncomfortable and growth, or it can be very empowering. And we walk through it not with ease, but with a much better, more resourceful way of walking through it. And then we develop a strategy around it. So what commitments am I making in my life? How am I dialing up integrity? Am I doing the things that I say I'm going to do by when I say I'm going to do it? Am I cleaning up messes with people if I do break a commitment with them or with myself? Are there pieces of things that I'm not owning in my life that I need to own better? Coaching is holding space for somebody to expand their vision, create a mindset that's resourceful for them, and then develop a strategy where they're held accountable through the process so that they can move towards something that they are truly capable of in the future.
Yeah. Cool.
That answer your question?
Let's talk. Yeah, well, it does. No, you gave a lot more to it, so that's good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about stories.
Yeah.
How have real or fictional stories or narratives shaped you as a person?
Whoa.
How have real and fictional stories or narratives shaped you as a person?
So I would then ask, and I think I know what you're asking. Like when you say fictional stories, my guess is that you're probably leaning toward, fictional literature along those lines.
It could be movies, it could be books, it could be audio, it could be any format. It could be a true story, maybe it's a business entrepreneur, World War II. Like it's just, these are stories that kind of resonated with you more than, or one of them. It could be a parable. It could be a variety of things, but it's just, we are all shaped by stories. And so what are the stories that shaped you?
Wow. This is, I'm an outward processor, so I don't know if this is going to land with most people, but the stories that I think probably stand out to me most significantly are going to be biblical stories, and then my favorite movies.
Okay.
So I'll go to the biblical stories first. Probably the two stories or accounts that resonate most with me are the story of Moses, which then leads into the story of Joshua. Moses being the leader of the Israelites, the one who was commissioned through a burning bush to free God's people from Egypt. And so that entire story is one that's pivotal for me because of what I love about Moses' story is that when he was called to go and to free the people, there was a ton of insecurity that he felt. He didn't believe that he was the guy. And God worked with him, but also was like, hey, no, you're the guy. You need to go do this. I'm going to bring along some people to help you along the way, But I love how in that story, as God is working to give him confidence and courage in his power, and Moses is pushing back and saying, I don't want it. That's not me. Like, I can't even speak a sentence without stuttering, all those things. And God just looks at me and says, hey, what is that in your hand? And Moses is like, it's a staff. And he says, throw it on the ground. So he throws it on the ground. It becomes a serpent. He runs from it. And we have no idea how long it was before he came back, right? It doesn't give us context on that. But we know at some point he came back and God told him, pick up the snake. What? Like the thing I just ran from, that I hightailed from, you want me to go and pick that thing up? And he does it, and it turns back into a staff. And that staff was the thing that he went and was able to part the sea and get water from a rock and all of these things, right? So it's like the thing that he was most afraid of in the moment, God had already given him one, because he said, what's that in your hand? He didn't say, go find a staff. He said, what is that in your hand? And so he had what he needed to be equipped with already. And that was the thing that he was scared of was the thing that then God used in his life to go and have an incredible impact. So I love that story because as that pertains to me, I grew up with a lot of insecurities. I was confident on the outside, but had a lot of insecurities, always placed myself below. And I say growing up, even into my adulthood, I still, to some degree, experienced that, I think in a way that a lot of people do. And so I remember that a lot is, God's already given you what you need. And very often the thing that scares you most might be the thing that he wants to use in your life to have an incredible impact. So anyway, that's one of my favorites. That goes into the story of Joshua, who took over after him. Strength and courage is, Joshua 1:9 is my life mission, my life message that I share with people. And then I mentioned the movies. Rudy is my favorite movie of all time. Remember the Titans is one of my favorite movies, and then Field of Dreams. And so those are my three top, and then Gladiator, what I put in there is the fourth. But I love a story of overcoming, which you can see some threads now here, Moses had to overcome, Joshua had to overcome. We see a lot of overcoming in biblical stories and in all of these movies as well. I am a sucker for an underdog that then goes and achieves great things.
Yeah. So let's talk about systems. How do you think about and use systems?
Just everything. I've learned about myself. I'm not a naturally detail-oriented person. I'll just say it. I hate detail. It makes my brain do weird things. It exhausts me. To think about detail. I'm like the vision. Give me vision. Give me 30,000-foot view. This is where we're going. And then people ask me, how are we going to get there? I'm like, I don't know. So that's the natural way that I operate. So I have learned over the years that for me to operate in any kind of leadership or just in life in general, as a father, as a husband, I've got to have systems in place. So we're talking stuff just as practical as, what happens with my phone and reminders that I have. I use a system called Notion in my life. How practical do you want to get, Jason? We're talking...
Whatever you want to give us.
We talk. Okay. I use Notion religiously as my second brain, where I keep everything in my life. I keep all of my tasks. I can plan things out and all that in ways that I could not do without something like that. And then I think there are systems in our lives that are I don't even want to go down that road. I was going to say societal systems, but I'm not. We're not going to have that conversation today. But yeah, I think if we get really practical, I use systems for everything. If there's, I mean, speaking to what I spoke to earlier, if there's a tension that's involved, create a system to address the tension. Create a process to address the tension, and now we have something that is automated, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, and you take that data and you tweak it, and you move forward with something new.
When does a system become tyrannical?
I think probably at the point that we begin to rely on it so much that we take the human aspect out of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we are relying too heavily without still thinking, we can automate as much as we want to, but when things are automatic, that means that it's kind of like habits in our life. There are habits that you have, habits that I have, we all have in our lives that are not serving us well. And so I think a system can become tyrannical when we fail to realize the moment that it has become a habit that's not serving us well, and we don't make an adjustment to get it back to where it is.
And how often does that happen in companies as a collective?
All the time. All the time. As we in Novus Global, we not only work with individuals, but we work with teams as well. And we see it over and over and over and over again, that there are systems that are in place that are in place. Maybe they had a good purpose at one point, but as turnover has happened, as people have churned, as there are different people in leadership, and all those different things that are in the natural cycle of a business or a team. Sometimes things hang around just because this is the way we've always done it, and it takes a courageous person to step up and be like, "Is this the best way to do this still?" But very often we don't do that. So
yeah. So how many companies do you see that have a system for systematically dealing with that system problem?
A system for the tension of systems, huh?
A system, essentially an audit system that
Yeah.
is essentially regularly checking, is this still serve its purpose?
Yeah. I would say probably it doesn't exist very often. There are incredible companies out there that are doing this.
Yeah.
There are incredible companies out there that are not doing this. Just because from the outside in, it looks like, oh man, they must have it all together. They've got everything working like it should. You peel back the layers, right? You get under the hood and you realize, man, there are a lot of things that are broken here too. So just because there is success financially for an organization or success in the impact and the reach that they're having, does not always mean that everything is working in the most efficient or effective way.
Yeah.
I would say that I don't know stats, but if I'm guessing, if you were to take a poll of every company out there, it would be a very low percentage of companies that have a system that is an implemented audit of, hey, is what we're doing still working as effectively as it could be? Are we operating in a way that are we operating at the highest of our capability and capacity? I think there's probably more companies that are not doing that than companies that are.
Yeah. And would you say the companies that don't have it, they become very bloated?
Define bloated.
Like they become overweight. They become very big. They become they're carrying a lot more weight than it's kind of imagine like a hiker like hiking down the Grand Canyon and he's got like 12 bricks in his backpack, like he's carrying more than he needs to.
Right.
That would be another way of thinking about it.
Yeah. I think in some ways this goes back to the vision statement, vision question. Are you being supported in the greatest way to achieve the vision, whether it's an individual vision, it's a company vision, it's a vision for impact, whatever the vision is everyone clear on what the vision is? And do we have the right people in the right seats at the right amount? Is what we're spending our dollars on supporting the vision of what we're trying to do? Is where we're spending our energy and our time and our effort supporting the vision of what it is that we're trying to do and the story we're trying to tell? So I think that's really the determinant on whether a company becomes bloated or not. And I think if you lack vision, I mean, the ancient parable says if where there is no vision, the people perish. So you could call it bloat. You could call it maybe bloating is an indication of where the company is headed, which is death.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're blunt,
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say there's probably some truth to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are the major causes of losing sight of the vision?
Causes of losing sight of vision?
Yeah.
Not keeping in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's been true for me in my life with my personal vision. There have been times, that I develop a vision. A lot of us, I mean, I think a lot of people relate to this. We step into a brand new year with like, this is who I'm going to be this year. This is what I'm going to do this year.
Yeah.
That's a vision, whether we call it that or not. I have a vision for my physique, or I have a vision for, my nutrition this year. I have a vision for getting a new job, whatever that is, right? It's a vision, even though we may call it a New Year's resolution or a goal or whatever. That's a vision. And what happens? I mean, there's literally a national day that's called Quitter's Day. That's normally like I think it's like the second Friday after the start of the year or whatever, because within 15 days of the year, most of us drift off of a vision. And I would say that probably most of the time it's because we're not keeping it in front of us, and we're not getting the right mindset around it, and we're not developing a strategy that's going to keep us on top of it.
Yeah.
When you have vision, I mean, it's very simple. Like it's may not be easy, but I will continue to beat the dead horse. Vision, mindset, strategy. If you don't have that, you will drift from vision. And that's at the individual level, that's at the team level, that's at the organizational level.
Yeah. Have you ever read this book, Why the Mighty Fall?
I have not. The Mighty Fall. I do like Jim Collins, but I haven't read that one. No.
This is his best book, by the way.
Okay.
But it talks about the 5 stages of decline.
Uh-huh.
So when you said that, it just reminded me I was kind of revisiting it a couple days ago, and he says stage 1 is hubris born of success.
Okay.
So essentially, the implication is if you have a vision and you move towards it and you're successful at it, that in itself is a symptom. If you have pride as a result of that success.
Yeah.
Of your inevitable demise. But so he talks about stage 2 is undisciplined pursuit of more. So out of that success, then you just chase more and more. Denial of risk and peril. Grasping for salvation is stage 4, and then capitulation or irrelevance or death is stage 5. So, yeah. So anyways, that came to mind when you said that.
Yeah. I'll have to read that.
What other parting words of wisdom do you have for us, or is there anything you wanted to share with us that you didn't get a chance to?
Where I get really excited is when I see people who are willing to get messy and step into growth. If I were to put in a statement, I would say, do whatever you have to do to get comfortable with the discomfort of growth.
Yeah.
Because, I'm a part of a club. My buddy Ike here in Atlanta started a club called Grow or Die.
Okay.
And I could tell you more about the club. I mean, it's essentially a club of a bunch of dudes who we're just committed to like building good habits in our lives and reflection and all those things. But the title of the club says everything. If we are not growing, we are dying.
Yeah.
Whether it's a physical death, yeah, right. You think about exercise and working out. If you're not training your muscles, which can be very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You are atrophying. Your muscles will choose to not work anymore because they've not been challenged.
Yeah.
The same thing happens with our minds. It happens in our spiritual lives. It happens with our emotions. I would say find whatever way, do whatever it takes to get comfortable with the discomfort of growth.
Yeah.
Because when you do that, I think it'll unlock a lot of great things in your life. It will help you move toward what matters. It'll help you develop vision and get the right mindset and stick to a strategy that will help you get there. Yeah, that's what I'm really passionate about, and I get really excited about, helping people do. Yeah.
Tell us what you're up to, what's ahead, how people can connect with you.
Yeah. Up to a lot of stuff. Yeah, I mean, at the heart of it is, I've mentioned Novus Global a couple times, but just, I'm an executive coach that wants to see people grow. And I believe that that coaching is for everyone. And so you can find me. I'm on Instagram at I am Trey McKnight. You can find me on Twitter there, Facebook. Any of those. LinkedIn. I'm Trey McKnight on LinkedIn. And I love to connect with people. I for whatever reason, if for nothing else, just to connect. I see a lot of value in connecting with people, hearing their stories, and offering whatever value that I can to them. So Novus Global. I lead Big Stuff Ministries, and so if you have student pastors who are listening and they have a desire to take their kids to a strong summer camp, middle school and high school students to an incredible experience where we inspire students to live life with Jesus down at Panama City Beach. We'd love to see you this summer or a summer in the future. And those are the two big things, that and then my beautiful, wonderful, amazing family. So
yeah. Now, if someone was interested in working with you as a coach, who would be a good fit, and what's a problem they're currently having that they need to call you about?
I could speak to my ideal client. The way we work is that there are 50 coaches who are part of our firm currently. So in those 50 coaches, we've got coaches who are coaching at different ranges. We've got coaches who are coaching different niches and different people. I'm really passionate about professional athletes and ministry leaders and entrepreneurs, vision-minded people who are wanting to move toward what matters in their life. So I'm not specific really to any industry. But for nothing else to say, those are kind of my ideal, people who I find I work really well with and who I'm kind of building my practice around. But anybody and everybody who is if that's you, if you're saying, hey, I want to get really comfortable with the discomfort of growth, I want to see what I'm truly capable of instead of underestimating what I'm actually capable of and telling myself all the stories of why I can't do blank and blank and blank, hit me up, because if it's not me, who would be the most appropriate coach for you? I've got 49 others of us who are all incredible, amazing people who all believe the same thing about the things that I've said here. And we'd love to help you out.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Trey McKnight, for joining us, sharing your life with us today. And this has been an episode of the Share Life podcast. I'm Jason Scott Montoya.